Hi YouTube, it's Janelle here. In this video, I'm going to be talking about why I think Bitcoin is not technically an investment. Before I jump into the video and talk about all the reasons why I think this is to be true, definitely go over and check out my Facebook and my Instagram. Follow me, add me, support me, like, thumbs up, all that good stuff. I try to post as often as I can to social media. I'm on here on my YouTube channel once a week, so definitely subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I try to post as much content as I can, and obviously love to hear from you guys, so please comment below and let me know what you think about the content that I post, and let me know if you have suggestions for future videos, because I always take that into consideration. So jumping into this video, I wanted to talk about this because in my last couple of videos I talked about what cryptocurrency is, why I think it's a big deal, and why I personally chose to invest in Bitcoin, even though I know and am willing to admit and understand fully that it's not technically an investment. So when you think about investing money, a lot of people think that an investment is just putting money into anything that will generate more money. And that's not technically true, because whenever you think that something will generate more money, you're never really positive or sure. There's no way that anybody in the world can really predict successfully what the future will bring. There's really just no way to know. So honestly, whenever somebody is quote unquote investing in something, they're kind of in a lot of ways making a bet, or they're taking a bet on something. And so the best bets to make come from looking at and analyzing and considering as much data as possible. And when it comes to thinking about data, you really just want to think about the numbers, right? You want to think about what is the numbers, what is the money that that this investment is bringing in right now and generating, and what potential is there for it to generate more money in the future. And when you think about that, that goes across the board. I mean, if you think about like shows like Shark Tank or any other kind of like venture capitalist funding that exists in Silicon Valley and a lot of startups, people who put money down on a company strictly invest because they believe in the company for a bunch of reasons, right? They look at the data, they look at the amount of money that's being generated by the ideas behind it, the people who are working at this company. They invest in the people, they invest in the product or the service, how much they really believe that this thing is going to be successful. They don't invest because of what everybody and their mama is out here talking about. They're not investing because, Sally and Susan and Joe and Jason and Joseph out here saying that it's going to bring them money. They don't care about what people are saying. They look at the data. And that's what makes successful investors successful ultimately, because they day in and day out, they look at data to make the best decisions possible, and they spread out their money so that they're sure that they're not putting all their money into one investment that may or may not succeed. So even if they really feel like it will succeed, they're never really sure, so they can't put all their eggs in one basket. And I've talked about that in other videos where I mentioned, making sure that you have a diversified investment portfolio. So at the end of the day, when you think about Bitcoin, technically, there is not enough data out there. There is data, like not to say there's no data. Obviously, you can look at when Bitcoin was created in 2008, 2009, and look at where it is now in comparison to what it was then. But thinking about how many years of data that is, that's really not a lot of time. It's such a small set of information. That's such a small number of years to look at compared to, all the largest companies in the stock market that are successful today. They have decades and decades and decades of success to show that, they have sound practices, they have, really smart people that they hire, they have different protocol in place to make sure that they're running their company in a way that is going to continue to generate income. And at the end of the day, the bottom line is that most of these companies that you can invest in, or people whose ideas you can invest in, generally, if they have a product or a service that they're offering, they have a plan, which includes a cash flow. So you can look at their cash flow and say, okay, so if this company is bringing in us this amount of money and putting out this amount of money, you can look at the difference, and if the difference is positive, then obviously they're putting in a certain amount of money and generating more than that. So they're a profitable company. And if they can continue to do that, or if they can convince you with data that they can continue to do that, then it makes sense to invest. Versus if they're, if the difference between the input and the output is negative, and we're talking about a company that is not increasing, their assets. They're not increasing their worth, the value of the company. They're actually decreasing every day that they continue to, make less than it costs to run their business. So that's, the basic, right? That's like the investing 101, the idea that you have to check out the cash flow. If they're bringing in more money than they put in, then it makes sense to consider investing. And you might obviously want to do more research than just that. The numbers alone are not enough information, but that is a big chunk of the pie. That's a big piece of, the information that you need to make a sound decision. So that being said, when it comes to Bitcoin, there is no cash flow. Bitcoin is a lot like gold, in the sense that people think gold is worth a lot, and they, are willing to put money down and invest in gold. But at the end of the day, there really is no way to prove how much gold is worth. People use gold, to make jewelry, so, decorate their houses or whatever. So yes, there is some worth behind gold, but at the end of the day, there is no real cash flow for gold. So there's no way to really prove how much somebody should pay for it. There really isn't a way to kind of to back that up or to prove it. It's mostly based on people thinking that it's worth this much or that much, and then being willing to pay that much in the hopes that they can sell it for more later, which is exactly what's happening with Bitcoin right now. People are thinking that Bitcoin is, must be worth something, right? A lot of people are talking about it right now. It's hot. It's trending on social media. Everybody's talking about it at work. Everybody's talking about it, in my friend circles or at home or whatever. And so people are kind of, obsessing over it almost in a very unhealthy way, because when you make when you make an investment, you should do it, like I said before, the way venture capitalists do, completely independently of what other people think you should do, or you could do. You're just really making the decision based on how much you can afford to, realistically, how much you can afford to lose, right? Because any investment that you make is with money that you can afford to lose. If you are not willing to completely lose that money, then you shouldn't be investing to begin with, right? And so that's why it's so important. And I'll refer back to so many of my other videos where I talk about establishing a savings account, where you have your emergency fund or your rainy day fund, or whatever you want to call it. Basically, you want to make sure that you have enough money to survive for however much time you feel is appropriate for you. If you're a high risk taker, then, maybe 3 months is fine for you of expenses. But if you're more conservative, you're a more safe person when it comes to taking risks, then maybe you want to have 6 to 8 months, maybe 12 months of expenses before you even consider investing. So that if there's an emergency, you have money to fall back on. You're not, out here just basically desperate, desperate for money. Because at the end of the day, that's where you don't want to be. Because when you end up desperate for money, that's when you end up making not the best decisions with your money. So a lot of the people that are out here publishing articles or writing blogs or posting YouTube videos are saying that they're investing in Bitcoin or cryptocurrency and making all this money. And it's kind of like get rich quick. Like, I got rich off Bitcoin, or like, this is how you can invest in Bitcoin and make a lot of money. Cryptocurrency is the next hot thing. Invest now and make money. It's like, not really, because it's so up and down, up and down, up and down all the time. Today is the perfect day for me to be talking about this in this video, because a week ago exactly, I posted a video and I said in that video that I purchased Bitcoin and I was at a profit literally 7 days ago. And today I post this video and I actually lost money, putting money into Bitcoin, because it dropped so much in the past, 10 days. So when you think about that, it's just 1 week can make a huge difference in the market, which means that it's not something that you can really say is going to be a sound investment, or to be the kind of investment that you can really depend on for the long term. So at the end of the day, it makes the most sense to really continue to have a diversified investment portfolio, where you have invested in as many different companies that you know to be successful that have proven that they could be successful over time. They have cash flow, they can show data to prove that they are going to do their best to continue to be successful, and whatever that means. If it means hiring smart people, if it means cutting back costs on running their business, whatever that means, that they can prove it. And so for me, that means investing in companies or having different investment accounts in places where that is guaranteed to be the most important thing. So I invest in places like Betterment and Wealthfront. I talked about this on my channel a million times. I'm sure that you all are tired of hearing me talk about Betterment and Wealthfront, and I promise you they do not pay me to talk about them. I just, I personally really believe that it's a really great investment strategy to go into creating an account with Betterment or Wealthfront, because of the fact that they're already constantly thinking about how to minimize your taxes and invest your money in the smartest possible way, so that you have a diversified portfolio and you're not worried too much about allocating money into your investments in different ways, so that you don't end up taking too much risk on because especially if you don't have a lot of money. At the end of the day, if you're filthy rich, you ain't watching MissBeHelpful. You're not on here listening to me because you have all this money and it doesn't matter to you, right? How you invest it, because if you lose some of it, it doesn't matter. You have more money to spare. But for average everyday people who don't have a ton of money to spare, that's not really feasible for them. So for people like that, people like me, you have to think more strategically about how you're going to put your money in the smartest possible places, so that in the long run, when you really need the money, it's there, it's safe, it's it's been growing, and you have more of a chance to be successful with those investments. So for me right now, anybody who thinks Bitcoin is the kind of investment that's going to bring them a lot of money, it's like, right now it's all speculation. It's all us guessing what it's worth, by thinking about how many people are talking about it, how much it's trending, what ideas we have about how much it's going to blow up more in the future. This is all us speculating. This is all just making an educated guess, but we don't really know for sure because there's not enough data. So at the end of the day, if anybody tells you that it's a smart idea to invest in cryptocurrency, or that it's really smart to invest in Bitcoin or Ethereum or any of the other cryptocurrencies, clearly that person hasn't really done all of their research, because even somebody like me who admits openly that I invest in cryptocurrency, that I have invested a small percent of my net worth, just 1%, in cryptocurrency, I admit that I recognize it's not an investment. I'm doing it more as like, I'm just placing a bet because of the fact that I really want Bitcoin to be successful. I want cryptocurrency to be successful. I really like the idea of a future where people can transact and sell and trade and buy things without fees from a third party, or without regulation from the government, or whatever. I think it's a really cool idea to kind of revolutionize the way that people trade. And so for me, I think that's a big, huge part of the reason why I invested. And obviously, if it blows up and I make some profit, great. That's a cherry on top of the sundae. That's awesome. But that's not, I'm not trying to invest in Bitcoin to make a lot of money tomorrow. I'm not trying to get rich quick. I'm literally putting this money in there and forgetting. I'm setting and forgetting. I'm literally thinking, I'm not going to worry about it. And in due time, like years and years and decades, when the time comes that I want to take out that money, or maybe I won't take it out, maybe I'll use the actual Bitcoin that I purchased to make transactions. Who knows? If it gets to that point where people can easily use Bitcoin to transact, then maybe I'll do that instead. But the point is, I really want to support this idea. And if you're not the kind of person who really believes in all of the ideas behind the creation of cryptocurrency, and especially Bitcoin, then maybe, you should think twice about investing and putting your money on something that you're not necessarily really behind. So if you're really thinking about, if you're tempted to like put money into Bitcoin, I would say one last thing. Really think about all of the ways that people who end up making desperate decisions to try to make a lot of money, to take a chance at making a lot of money, how that plays out. If you look at like the lottery statistics, there's a really great Freakonomics podcast episode that I'm literally blanking on the name of it, but I'm gonna post the episode below in the description box, so check it out. It's so amazing, and it tells all these different statistics about the lottery. And I think it's really important to recognize that most of the people who buy lottery tickets and fund the lottery are below the poverty line. People out here who have executive level jobs, they're not buying lottery tickets. They're not out here putting money on the lottery because they're not desperate for this one shot, this one chance at, making it, right? Making all this money from just this one little ticket. And I think that's this huge kind of desperation that feeds that purchase from people like me, people who grow up in poverty, people who grow up in low income areas, where you're like, oh man, if I just buy this one ticket today and I have a chance at getting all this money. Not to say that that's so irrational, but that is the human tendency, is to try for that chance, right? But when you do that repeatedly and repeatedly and repeatedly, it doesn't make the most sense. Because at the end of the day, if you would have put that money in a more sound investment that's backed up by data, then you have a better chance in the long run at actually making your money grow and work for you, rather than all those tickets that you got from the lottery. Who knows where those tickets even are, and you didn't make any money back from it, so you basically wasted all that money. So it's really important to think about how you're spending money, and what is the data, and what is the cash flow, and what is kind of like all of the information that would help you to decide if this is a sound investment or not. To me, Bitcoin just doesn't make sense as an investment strategy right now. It's not part of my investment portfolio. It's not part of my allocation. That's just not one of the things I consider to be part of my long-term investment strategy or portfolio. I think of it as just kind of like how some people just go to Vegas once a year or go to Atlantic City every now and then. It's for sport, right? I really like the idea and I want to put this money down, and I truly hope it succeeds, but it's not something that I'm banking on. It's not something that I'm really, needing for Bitcoin to succeed so that I can make more money. That's not true. If I lose the money that I put in, I'm good. I still have 99% of my net worth available for me to make decisions with that money. So, definitely don't do it if you don't have money saved up for an emergency. If you haven't hit savings goals of 3 to 6 to 12 months of expenses set aside in a savings account, then investing in anything, period, let alone Bitcoin, which is, generally very speculative right now, just it doesn't make sense, right? Make sure that you set your savings goals, make sure you meet your savings goal before you start investing, and definitely make sure that you have the savings goal in place before you think about investing in cryptocurrency or putting money into cryptocurrency, because it doesn't make sense unless you know that you're willing to lose that money. So that is all I have. If there's any questions or comments, definitely put them below. I have a couple of links below to an article published on Wealthfront that I read that I thought was great, an article on Betterment that I thought was great, and also another article that Mr. Money Mustache posted on his blog, which is also really awesome, with lots and lots of data and even more links that you can go check out to read more research around the idea that, Bitcoin isn't necessarily an investment, and too many people think that it is. So definitely check those out below. Also, that Freakonomics podcast is linked below. And if you have any questions or comments, you can always put them there, or you can write them to me directly at MissBeHelpful@gmail.com. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. That's all I have for you guys. Till next time, peace.